There we go. Okay, hey, look at that. I was here early, but as it turns out, I was just on time. Purdue goes final. How am I doing now? Everybody who's listening or trying to listen. I hope you can hear me now. I believe you can hear me now. It is Saturday, March 22nd at 2:21 p.m. I was here before the game was over, actually. And now I'm here with audio. And I didn't even do my standard of covering my thermostat because I was in a hurry. Purdue has advanced to the Sweet 16 in Indianapolis, Indiana. And in my opinion, they've already made this season a success. I think they needed to get to Indy to crown this season a success after, I don't want to say turbulent, but an up and down season. Purdue got the unfortunate task of playing two media darlings in a row in the form of High Point, which a lot of people picked, and then McNeese State. It was just a feel-good story because of the aura thing, I guess, and being a lower seed. This win for Purdue comes on the shoulders of great effort. No other way around it. I said this already, but I just want to make sure I'm not repeating myself now with the audio. But it was defensive effort. It was getting the 50-50 balls. Like I said, it was just all out. Purdue playing like they're capable of playing. Now, is it one of two things? Is it A, Purdue's playing lesser competition from smaller conference? There's no doubt about it. But they were dialed in the first half. They got a big lead. They got the lead up to 18 points at the half. I think that was their biggest lead of the half, I believe. In the second half, they extended it way out. And then they did a Purdue thing from this year. They forgot how to be opportunistic. There was a tech on two different, a player and Wade from McNeese State. Purdue extended the lead out really big. And then they just let their foot off the gas, and McNeese State got it down to, was it 13? Something like that. And then Purdue pushed it out again to 24 points before cruising to victory. Just nothing real bad to say other than that 5 minutes was really lousy in the second half, but a lot of good things to talk about. And that's a hell of an intro. And now let me thank our sponsors and appreciate everything they've done for us this year. Head over to homefieldapparel.com. Look at the Hoop Society pack from Purdue. Check out the classic sweater. Check out the script sweatshirt. Not this one. This is the band script. This is one that pre-exists our relationship with them. But check out the basketball script sweatshirt. Black on black or charcoal on charcoal. Can't remember. Gold outline. It's pretty badass. And enter Boiled25 at checkout for 15% off your first order. And also, when you're at Mackey Arena and Purdue has just played a hell of a game, start to finish, done what they're supposed to do, beaten the team they're supposed to beat, head out of Mackey, sprint down towards the fire station. When you get there, look left and you'll see the blue lights. Keep sprinting. Go right into the doors of AJ's. Say hi to Adam and company. They'll treat you well. The food will be delicious. Get the cheese curds. Get the pretzel. Get the mac and cheese bites. Just to start. And then order a pint. In the bottom of your pint, Boiled Sports Magnet on a game day. And then get burgers and beef. Burgers, beef, beer. That's AJ's. AJ's by the fire station. Eatajs.com. AdamIsHandsome.com. I don't know if that's, please don't enter that website. Okay. Purdue played really, really well for big chunks of today, and they looked like the better team, and they proved they were the better team, and they frustrated the team that was not as strong, and they did what you're supposed to do in the NCAA tournament when you're better. Full stop. That's just it. But also, let's be real honest, okay? McNeese State, while becoming a media darling here, had like a sideshow thing going, if we're going to be real honest. Really hard to concentrate in the situation they had, right? You had the manager who had the aura thing going. He got the NIL agreements with multiple sponsors. And then they had the Will Wade stuff happening where he had already accepted an NC State job. He had been incredibly honest and candid with the media and told them what was going on. And then I think someone leaked it, but kind of a weird situation for McNeese State to deal with. Getting past the first round was probably what they really were hoping for. I think it was their first win as a school in the NCAA tournament. I believe that's true. So tough situation for the kids to fight through. And I mean that. I'm not trying to be sarcastic at all. That's a lot. And you think about sometimes, when Purdue faces teams, a lot of times when they face these media darling teams, whether it's, let's go through history if you want. You got St. Peter's, you got FDU, you got even High Point. It feels almost like a force of nature is coming against your Boilermakers, and you feel like the world's against you as a fan. And this one is almost the opposite, if we're being really honest, right? It just felt like, it was like, man, they have to really concentrate and buckle down to beat Purdue today. And that's asking a lot of a team that is completely, they probably love the spotlight, right? So, so did St. Peter's, and they ate it up, and then they beat Purdue. So I'm not naive enough to forget that, but I will say this is a hard one for McNeese State to deal with all the situation around. Purdue played great. TKR was really, really dominant. They had a very difficult time dealing with his physicality on offense. Purdue rebounded really well. Purdue ran transition really, really well. Fletch Lawyer was knocking down open J's. Smith looked brilliant at times, but also looked absolutely horrible at times. I think I'm going to dig into stats now, but he had some plays where you're like, what are you doing, dude? Like Purdue had all this momentum at one point in the first half, if I remember correct. Purdue had a secondary break. He came down 2 or 3 McNeese State players around him, and he decided to pull just seconds into the shot clock. Clanked it, went the other way, and McNeese State scored, I believe. So Trey Kaufman ran 22 points, 15 boards, 3 assists, a block, a steal. Great game. 8 for 10 from the free throw line. So he got back to the way he was shooting the free throw in the late middle season. I'm weird. I'm watching the McNeese State players and coaches get upset and I love seeing that stuff. I eat it up. I think it's the best part of the game where you're like, okay, you put it all out this year and then your season's over. It's tough. Doesn't have to be my team clearly, but that stuff's tough to watch, but great to watch at the same time. It's the richness of it's life. Fletch Lawyer comes back from last game where I know the deep analytics said he played a great game last game. He did not play well. And you can't sell that to me. I went back and watched more of the film from it. He did not play well. He wasn't looking for a shot, and also his defense looked bad. I know he's plus 16. Numbers lie sometimes, especially in this case. Today, no need to have the numbers lying. I'm sure he was excellent in the deep analytics, but in the simple B Dowd level analytics, he was really great too. 15 points, 5 assists, a steal. It's funny. 3 for 10 from 3, but he kept shooting. That's funny. I think he played solid, and I look at these numbers, and I'm like, he actually didn't play a good game for Fletch Lawyer. And I think that's the funny thing about this game. Purdue absolutely runs through McNeese State. Final score, I don't think I've mentioned it yet, 76-62, but it wasn't that close. Like I said, Purdue was up 24 in the closing minutes when I started my pre-show prep stuff. But they can play better. They can play better. And the next matchup is going to be tougher. There's no doubt. You got 2 very good teams squaring up. Purdue will play the winner of Gonzaga and Houston. Houston is a terrifying team to me, just because teams that are that physical and that defensive minded, it's just tough for anybody to play them. But the weird thing about Houston, if you watch, they play close games. They're comfortable with it, and they win close games. They don't explode and beat the hell out of teams generally. I think they did that to Kansas maybe this year, but they don't do that generally. Who else? Like I said, Braden Smith, interesting day. So let's weird box score. 10 points on, he shot not real well from 3, not real well from the field. 3 of 7 from the field. 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 8 turnovers. 8 turnovers. And that's usually death for Purdue. When Smith gets into that bag, it's trouble. Not today, because Purdue had built such a big lead. Smith's worst period of time was that second half swoon that Purdue went through. At one point, I think I counted, and I might be wrong, 5 straight turnovers during that period. Obviously rough stuff. Not great. CJ Cox, 11 points. 2 for 2 from deep. He was huge when Purdue needed big shots. He gave them. Also Colvin had a couple big threes. I think he was 2 for 5 from 3. He was pulling. Like, I love seeing guys that are ready to go. Heidi was also, he played solid, 5 boards. He didn't, let's see. How about that? 1 3. Didn't shoot that much. 2 for 2 from the floor. Off the bench, Purdue plays, that's okay. 11 points. Jakari Harris, who is quiet in the box score, but is important. Again, 3 points, 5 rebounds. Caleb First, a quiet day. Purdue wins 76-62 with the help of free throw shooting, which is an old-fashioned Purdue formula that worked real well last year. 23 free throws, 82% from the line. Shot the three really well in the first half, shot it okay in the second half. For periods of time, they shot it poorly. They finished over 40%, 43% almost, 42.3 from deep. And then rebounding, again, for the second straight game. This is as simple as if you block out and you're bigger and stronger, you should get the boards. And Purdue cleaned the glass, 41 boards to 24. Let's see. Defensive rebounds, Purdue had 29, but they still had a couple possessions that were the type that make B-Dowd curse. So that's fun. Not really. But then they did have a couple of those where it's like 3 or 4 shots at the bucket. Never fun. You guys are here listening, watching live. I appreciate it. Let me say hi. Morgan's here. He says muted. Yeah. So I'm going to go down here. I appreciate everybody sounding off and telling me what I was doing, but man, by the way, my mic was on. Everything was, it just happens sometimes. It's great. And if you were here early, I apologize. Ted Berkey was the first one to tell me my sound was good. Robert Pritchett says, woot. Dan G, better. Jarvizda. It's a great name. I don't know what your real name is, but that totally sounds like a drug name. Just what the doctor ordered. Yeah, this was a fun game. And this was it's a confidence builder. And Purdue's had 2 in a row where you're like, okay, am I starting to feel good about this? I mean, like, I think this Purdue team has shown all year, though, before we get too excited or like a team of destiny or whatever you want to say, Purdue has played well against teams they're better than, according to the net or according to KenPom. They just have all season long, other than Penn State and Ohio State, really, right? But this team was worse analytically than Penn State, which was Purdue's worst loss of the year. So good that they got the Sweet 16. They handled their business, did what you're supposed to do, right? They did what they're supposed to do. But in doing so, in my opinion, I think the season, for me, looks like it's through a prism of success. So get to go to Indy now and play a really good team. Boilers 012 says, congrats to McNeese State. Agreed. Not enough aura in this game. Absolutely. You just need a little bit more sometimes. Ted Berkey says 15-3 run for McNeese to end the game. Not great. The end of the game, though, I mean, Purdue was up 24. I'm not bothered by that. Sorry. It didn't bother me a bit. The one that bothered me, of course, was it a 9-0 run by McNeese State, where Purdue had 5 minutes where they played atrociously because the game was still very much in contention at that point. So that one bothered me. The end of the game didn't. Yeah. Morgan says, take that. Mohill 93 says, take that boombox home. Then said something mean-spirited. But yes, I agree. It's okay. You get your NIL money. You get the boombox. You get all the sweet yellow gear you can handle. 2 of the cleanest coaches are about to square off. Patino and Calipari. Let's see. Galvin McDonald says, hell yeah. Zach Young, I dislike the media so much. You're speaking my language right now, Zach, so I'm going to just keep reading. They're so lazy and just wanted Boombox Boy to advance. Smith hasn't even played well yet. Look out. He has not played well. And it would be awesome to see him come and just absolutely unload the barrels in the next game on the big stage. And then after that, you can have another really good team. But that's how the NCAA tournament works. Absolutely. So I agree, though. John Timmons says, we don't have to hear about team managers anymore or that manager anymore. You don't have to hear the feel-good story. That's the great thing. Purdue becomes the feel-good story now. The next game, they're playing to seed. Every NCAA tournament needs to be measured that way. The success needs to say, did you play to seed? Purdue played to seed already, right? So now you're dealing with house money, right? And here, the gift that Purdue gives us right now. I said this after Purdue won. Now you get almost 2 full days of fantastic, stress-free basketball watching. This Saturday and Sunday is going to be a lot of fun for Purdue fans. There's no doubt. And even better, the more fun part, until they play Thursday or Friday, we don't know yet, in Indy. Maybe we do know. I don't know. You get to enjoy national radio hosts talking about one of the final 16 teams remaining in this tournament is your Purdue Boilermakers. That stuff is so sweet for me. And if you can get to the third weekend, oh boy, that was fun. Sorry for dreaming. Christina KV says, great win. Baffled as to why Painter left the starters in until the end. I agree. More baffled by why Paint didn't call a timeout during that 5-minute run. Not 5-0. 5-minute run where Purdue was just turning the ball over. Yeah, that's tougher for me. I really don't understand that. Mohill 93 says, I hate when all they do is show things that aren't basketball related. You're missing the point though, because the whole thing is the producers are trying to get their claws into people that aren't basketball fans. You're going to be here regardless for multiple reasons. Number one, is a Purdue game, but number two, you're here to watch the NCAA tournament. What they need is the next level to be impressed. My daughter, if they can impress her with a guy in a yellow jumpsuit and a boombox, then they've done something. That's a lot tougher sell than selling it to a basketball head, right? Kevin in Albuquerque says, apologies to Seth Davis for blowing up that portion of the break. Oh, it is sad. Sad for Seth. Wally Zerbiak, I know he had some positive comments, but he had some negative comments too, which he loves to give to Purdue. I have not forgiven him for what he said last year during the tournament, and I will not. I won't. And I'm going to look at him as critically as he looks at Purdue. So he was he was upset at the half. Hate to see it. Brian T says, season's not over yet, but is officially a successful season. Right on. IC says, sweet 16 in Indianapolis. We like to see that. Boiler up. Glad to see you, Doubt. Appreciate it, IC. Glad you're here. Andy Day says, good wire-to-wire win. Actually, McNeese State had a lead early. I think it was 3-2. Am I right? They may have had 2 leads. No, not wire-to-wire. But close. Fair enough. I like to be a jerk, and that's what I was just doing right there. Scott McCollum says they played 2 bottom dwellers. Now they move on to some real times and not high school teams. Yeah, we can. I don't like to talk trash about anybody. I think everybody in the NCAA tournament's pretty good. They've done something to get there. I really would say the mental part of this game, the fact that they had a lot of fun stories circling around them, and then they had the unfun story of their coach leaving. That's a lot. I think that's a lot to deal with. No doubt Purdue did not get the best version of McNeese State today. That said, the best version of McNeese State playing Purdue with that resolute of an attitude as they had in the first half is going to struggle. They're going to struggle against Purdue. That version of Purdue is nasty, and it's fun to see. John Timmons says, not concerned with the offensive dip. McNeese was trying to throw their best punch at that point. Yeah, they did what a smaller team did. They got really physical in the second half too. Really tried to rough Purdue up a little bit. Not in a horrible way. There's some stuff that was questionable, but not awful. But yeah, they took a swing. So literally and figuratively, there's some stuff there. You're like, Boilermaker 63 says, folks, we're going to the second weekend primarily because of defense. What an improvement. Agreed. Again, we take it with a pinch of salt, just a little pinch, because the competition gets so much tougher next weekend, regardless of who gets by in the Houston-Gonzaga game. Those are good teams. Now you're in the deep end, right? And Purdue has dealt with this before. It takes for this year's Purdue team, it's going to take. I hate to say stuff like this, but let's say fortuitous bounces. Think something to go your way, and then really good effort too, right? And I hearken back to the Tennessee, and Purdue made a bit of their own luck, but they also, that game was toast. Purdue should have lost Tennessee and should have won Virginia if we go back to the comparisons to that fun 2019 run. Let's see. Dan G says hot dogs at AJ's and beer. So yeah, go get a Chicago dog. That's a very good order. That's a good thing to have there. T-Rex says, man, okay, now it gets real, no doubt. Zach Welch, how sweet it is. The team is locked in defensively, has looked closer to the team we saw in January, no doubt, playing with house money. See, that second part I like more than even the comparison to January, like I said, because the thing about January that I think LBD figured out, if you were paying attention here a week ago, he just said when Purdue, they played bad teams during that period, right? And so, or teams that weren't as good as the rest of the season. Now you play real competition. I mean, real competition, real coaches. everything's tough. Everything's tough. And so Purdue has to play not 20 minutes of good basketball, 40 minutes of good basketball, right? And I think that's one thing they struggled with. When they got really crappy in that period where they were losing, it was putting together 40 good minutes of basketball. So, yeah, that's something to think about. Andy Ide says, great to see our boys take it right at the opponent's weakness, no doubt. Let's see. I'm going to skip down a little bit. Safety First says, how nutty would it be if Purdue played Gonzaga in the Sweet 16 and Tennessee in the Elite 8 just like last year? It'd be crazy, but the committee either has a sense of humor or they want to see retribution. I think they know that TV likes that too, but it would be nutty, but it would also be it's what they wanted. It is what they wanted. And so just need a couple things to fall your way to make those rematches happen. Blake Widmer says, great W. Thaddeus Grubaugh says, I'll eat crow. I was saying Purdue wouldn't handle the zone because TKR isn't good enough facilitator. He proved me wrong in the first half. Recognized the double teams and found the open guys. And that's a big deal. When McNeese State went into the 1-3-1, the 1-3-1 is designed, if you don't know it, to really try to put teams in a place where you can't get inside, right? And I would argue there are better zones you can play even, but Purdue made them pay. And when you think about what Purdue did, it wasn't just one guy making them pay. It was multiple players knocking down threes. Absolutely huge. Very good point. Appreciate it. Jeff Nestor says, good rebounding, good free throw shooting, solid defense, terrible turnovers. The final, I didn't mention the final on that. It was, dag nabbit. Yeah, so there's where, if you want to have a big grain of salt about today, if you want to, and I'll tell you something else is interesting sidebar, but Purdue had 19 turnovers today. And I talked about Smith's 8, but holy crap. Colvin had 9. I didn't even look down there. And a friend of mine who may be on here, maybe listening right now, I don't want to say what I was going to say, but a friend of mine who's a Purdue fan always struggles with Colvin as a player. He sees his flaws first. And so, yeah, that's an easy one to see. That's a lot of turnovers. It's not good basketball, and Colvin can play better. But one thing that I was going to say is at the half, I don't know if you saw this, Purdue came back out on the court with like 8.5 minutes left. That's not really Paint's way, especially in the postseason. Purdue usually comes right out right before it hits triple zeros and gets ready to go. They don't get very warm, but there's a long meeting, a team meeting at the half. Not today. Painter was pretty pleased with the effort. I told my wife, I was like, I would do this the way when I used to coach young kids or young high school age kids. I'd ask my assistants, okay, give me the worst things you saw out there. Let's get critical. And I'd tell them, hey, you're up by 18, but, and then I'd tell them, and then I'd come back and say, now go fix these things and finish this damn game, right? I would have gotten critical, and I would have looked for adjustment, and Paint went positive because he's a better man than me. Nita B in verse says, Will Wade had a discount Dan Hurley temper tantrum going to the sideline for most of the game. Never cared for that guy. Happy to see him get teed up. And yeah, he got really, really frustrated. And you'd get frustrated too if your team was getting beaten that bad. But like I said, I think there's a lot of emotion about saying, okay, in the moment, I believe this. All these coaches are kind of heartbroken to have this is the last time they're going to be with this version of their team, right? He's going to take some guys with him to NC State, no doubt about it. But I think some of that's super real. And the game was slipping. The things that he was trying to do, throwing different defensive looks at Purdue, was not making a dent. But I think it starts becoming real, and you saw the tears. Copeland from their team, who looked like KRS-One, he was crying when he fouled out, and Wade was crying, and they had a little meeting. The refs didn't seem to care, didn't try to speed it up. They let him do it right on the floor. But yeah, that's that emotional part's all real. So Nolan Hosteller says, love that we didn't let the Cinderella narrative get to us like years in the past. Agreed. I think it's a huge thing. We're an elite program that takes care of business, house money, playing in Indy. The thing that you all can enjoy if you're on Twitter or wherever in social media, most people have a social media account that they enjoy. But you can now take a deep breath, and if you bookmark some posts, you can go and say hi to some people that have been asinine in the way of the thinking. Everyone seems to forget what Purdue did in the tournament last year. Everyone seems to forget it. They forget Grambling and Utah State and Gonzaga. They forget those games. Purdue hit those teams in the mouth. Purdue handled their business in those. And that team was very similar with the Lance Jones addition, but very similar to the previous team that lost FDU. And for some reason, what all these morons see is FDU followed up by High Point. FDU followed by High Point. Oh, here's your comeuppance you're going to get from McNeese State. Well, all you morons, and I know a lot of this is just trolling, but you can just let them know that they're smart. Who's Johnny says, I thought there would have been more Berg. Yeah, Berg was in for a bit, not a ton of minutes, not a ton of reason. There wasn't a lot of foul trouble. But yeah, it was interesting to me. I like, there's some lineups we're seeing that Purdue plays with a lot of pace, and it's tough for teams to match up. And when that lineup where Purdue's got these wings that can bomb and Smith is pushing hard, they're tough. Boy, that version of Purdue is tough to match up with. Christina KV says, cannot believe they won that with that many turnovers. It's incredible. It is absolutely incredible. And we've seen that spell doom for Purdue too many times. Wow. This thing just skipped down a whole page. I'm going to try to catch up a little bit here, but I'm going to go through. Okay. Gage Martin says, Painter, taking people who are playing well and putting them on the bench is infuriating. I completely agree. He's like a cooler sometimes. Heidi and Colvin have been getting momentum for the team, and he pulls them. Makes no sense. I don't understand it. He gets paid a little bit more than me to do what he does, and he's generally very, 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 very good at it. And I'm a big fan of what he does and what he has done at Purdue. The past few years I know there's been bumps in the road, but I'd be foolish to get too much into this, me personally. Everybody can focus where they want to. You're all welcome to do it, but his substitution patterns are infuriating, though. I will completely agree. Yeah, Brian Beatty asks a question, were the technicals a sign of frustration with McNeese? Yes, absolutely. Kevin Albuquerque says, got our 4+ minutes without scoring stretch in the NCAA tournament out of the way. It was 5 minutes, I believe, when it was all said and done. Nemanja Chalison says, I accept that I have a problem when I realize I'm too nervous to sit down just because Purdue is only up 20 with 2 minutes left in the game. You do have a problem at that point because the damage was done at that point. And I think in the final 2-3 minutes, I had already come in here to do my thumbnail, to do a little, quick look over if there was anything out there in Twitter, that sort of thing. But yes, you've got a problem at that point. You do. Purdue was A-okay. I can tell you, though, I haven't eaten lunch yet because I have a similar nerve issue, and I'm drinking bourbon at 2:49 without having lunch. So I'm going to try to nurse this 2-finger pour that I've got going. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Mohill 93 has a very good point, and he says, I'm not paying $300 for a Sweet 16 game in a football stadium. And I can tell you, I understand that, and I promised that I would be in Indianapolis, but I don't think it's the best way for me to spend my money. And some of you know my personal situation right now. It would probably not be wise. If I find some good tickets, though, I'll go. But it's going to be a tall order. You guys who are going will have to pull the weight for me and send me a text and tell me how things went in person. I think the odds look long. In case you looked at the ticket market, it went through the roof in the last 15, 20 minutes of that game. So I'm going to wait for it to cool a little bit. Hopefully some things work out our way, meaning Purdue's way. One of them would be Kentucky get knocked out, I think, because they're in Indy too, I believe, right? Yeah, they play Tennessee, wouldn't they? I don't have the bracket in front of me. I'm not going to try to do that. All right. Hammer Down Boiler Room says, go Boilers, dancing in Indy. John Hawk says, looking good to me. Let's keep it up. Seth Harder says, let's go Boilers. Night, McNeese State. Yeah, good night, Cinderella. Ron Gable, how are you, sir, says, Friday. There we go. So they're not playing Thursday. They're playing Friday. Appreciate the update. Both Adam and Ron say the same thing. Let's see. Greg Stuckey, 6 out of 8 years in the Sweet 16. This is a good point. This is why I love the comments, because they remind me of things that I've heard that I haven't said, and I've said a lot of words, but I haven't said these words. 6 out of 8 years in the Sweet 16. Is that the best in the nation? I believe it is. I think there was one team that was right there with Purdue, and you guys can probably tell me who it is. But either way, we're blessed, even though sometimes get frustrated. Everything in life is about perspective, boys and girls, everything. And depending on where you put your focus, things can be really lousy, and you could be eating caviar and wearing gold-plated diapers. Or you can say, I got it pretty good. And there are a lot of people that have it worse. And thank God I've got what I've got. So we are absolutely in a golden era for Purdue basketball. And there's no other way to say it. It's been an incredible fun years. There's been some lousy endings, as we can see. A realist can see them. A negative person can focus on them, but you have to see that this is pretty special. You have to. The amount of All-Americans that have come through wearing gold and black in the last few years has been awesome. The fact you get to a final game is still unbelievable for me. And now go to another Sweet 16 in Indy before next year, which I still... next year in Indy. All right. Nolan 23 says, love to see Colvin and Heidi playing well. Me too. Jim Garfinkel says, still got to clean up those turnovers. Absolutely horrible in that place. Karen Grulak, my buddy, says, better clean up turnovers. Houston or Gonzaga are going to toast us if we do that again. Yep, you're correct. Shane Hinkle, 75-63 in the first round, 76-62 in the second round, staying consistent and leaving some room. Again, we can be nervous, but those are pretty good. Those are pretty good differentials. And by the way, Big Ten now 9-0 in the tournament. I'm not a Big Ten guy, but I'm definitely an anti-ESPN guy. So shut up, ESPN. Shut up. And hopefully, this is the thing. They did this. They do it every year in football season. You see it, and they have vested interest in the SEC. I get all that. But my goodness, to tell us for so long that was the best basketball conference ever. And then to watch them lose 6 games in the first 2 rounds, or the first 2 days, not first 2 rounds, first 2 days, 8-6. What that tells you is, sure, the top of the conference is good, like we knew, but the bottom of the conference is, get this, not as good, not great, not in the elite in the nation. Probably didn't deserve as many places in the tournament as they got, in spite of the fact that the net was all over them. We still don't even know how the net's decided. It's an incomplete algorithm for the public. So. Yeah, they play really well against each other, and a lot of them lose to one another. And how ESPN says, oh my gosh, it shows the parity and strength of the SEC. And at the same time, when you see that type of thing, where the Big Ten is sniping at itself, it shows how weak the Big Ten is. So get your narratives consistent. Daniel Nelson says, stress-free Saturday win. As always, as you always say, B. Dowd, never get tired of blowouts. Love to see it. It's my favorite. It's my favorite. It's my love language. Purdue blowout. Love it. Purdue blowout in the NCAA tournament. Love it even more. Purdue blowout in the NCAA tournament when I'm there. Holy moly. I mean, you're dealing with just warmth. It's like a big hug, weighted blanket. Zach Young says, anyone else find it odd that once the refs season depends on officiating well, they actually officiate well? Jeffrey Anderson looked awesome today. I know it's the dumbest thing any human's ever said. He reffed really well. Like, you didn't notice him. I don't think he was high-kneeing. Maybe I missed it. But Jeffrey Anderson, look at me. Look what I'm doing right now. Do not get cocky. But I'm sure you're going to get cocky. That was great. He did a good job. So I agree. That was awesome. He really did a great job. I mean that. And I'm not just saying because Purdue won. He reffed well. Let's see. Nathan Anderson says, after 18 years, I'll finally finish ahead of Mrs. B. Dowd in the bracket gasm. Yeah, she gave you that one. I'll say that. She really, boy, oh boy, Mrs. B. Dowd. I don't think she can hear me. She was outside doing something. But Clemson in the Final Four? I mean, I can't even figure out why she did it. She didn't watch them. Friend of mine said, yeah, she's outside. Friend of mine said he helped his son do a bracket. His son was 3 or 4. And he liked Clemson a lot because the logo, when small, looked like a puppy dog to him. And that could be what my wife was thinking, but I don't know what else it would be. I'll fully admit, you can see my bracket. It's out there. I thought Purdue would lose to Clemson just because I thought Clemson was pretty good, and they had some things that they could counter Purdue with. I thought they'd be able to handle TKR pretty well. Of course, they didn't know when tip-off time was in their first game. So that hurt them quite a bit. Let's see. I'm going to go down. Boiler up. Hammer up. Boiler down says. How big is Indy home court going to matter? I don't think that's that big of a deal. I don't think it's that big of a deal, especially in those domes. Those are weird. it's a weird environment. And I mean, sure, Purdue absolutely fills it up, but they won't, because you're going to have Kentucky people there. A lot of Kentucky people there if Kentucky wins. I think that's right. Again, I don't have my bracket in front of me. I'm a moron. So, Typovich 1 says second weekend equals successful season. CMP should have pulled Braden Smith with 2 minutes ago. Agreed. I really, my little Christmas wish, if Purdue returns the core of players, that Braden Smith, his minutes drop next year down to 34 a game, and you get to see CJ Cox playing more of the point guard role. I know he's a hybrid, but give him a little look at point guard, and it'll help the future. That's the other thing. Helps this year. Who's Johnny says, Jay Billis always says we're going to lose. Jay Billis stinks. He stinks. I don't know what his deal is. Gene Katie always loved Jay Billis, and all Jay does is tell Purdue they're going to lose. You're right. Ledger Family says BS had a bad game. Not me. Braden Smith had a bad game again, but his teammates and especially the bench all contributed. Great to see. Scrappy and out there hustling, out hustling the opponent. Pardon me. Reminds me of the Chris Kramer era. It was really good to see that defensive effort. I apologize. Really good to see. Really heartening. Andy in Colorado says, interesting because I thought the officiating was extremely touchy on Purdue, and they made up for it by letting McNeese just drape all over everyone. I just didn't see it that way. I mean, McNeese State had the same problem, it looked like to me, as High Point did. One thing, I noticed this early. So if Purdue was going to cut across the lane in just an action to create a play, right away, the McNeese State player would meet the Purdue player, almost like you're taught to meet a player in football, where you put your hands inside the pads and you try to steer them, right? Like they were hitting the Purdue player inside, right? And so that stuff is garbage. And it looks to me like a lot of these teams that are smaller and they know that they're going to have physicality problems are going to try to body up on a team and do what Wisconsin usually does and say, dare you officials to blow your whistles. No doubt about it. It almost rhymed. I could make that rhyme in a rap song. But on the other side, there were some questionable calls. I do not think it was a poorly officiated game, though. I really don't. I think there's going to be bad officiating everywhere. I think Purdue would smartly put some space between them and their opponent where it didn't matter at all. But I thought the officials were fine. I really do. And maybe I'm the only Purdue fan that thinks that. I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. I'm moving on. Caleb Gerald says, Rob and Bobby said Anderson went over to Purdue huddle and said, come on, right after Purdue called the timeout. Assistant coach had to tell him we called TO. Okay, so I didn't see that. And I'm still going to stick with that's good. I'm just going to stay here. I'm going to do this. You know why I'm going to say Jeffrey Anderson officiated well? Because for him, he officiated incredibly well. I mean, if you guys want to keep bringing other fodder to that argument, you can. You're not going to change my mind. Well done. Let's give Jeffrey Anderson another hand. Jeffrey, couldn't done it. Well, we could have done without you. And could have done without watching him all season, but well done, Jeffrey. And this is me. This is just from Boiler Down. It's clearly not from Purdue Nation. But well done, Jeffrey Anderson. Again, thank you. Hosehead says, is Braden transferring Kentucky? I've got a lot of theories on this. That one specifically, though, I don't see any. I can't go to the bottom of the kernel. Like I'll try to chase rumors like that when I see them and see if I can find a credible link to the story. And I do not find one. And I cannot find one from the people that I think know a lot more than I do. That said, there are tons of good programs coming after Braden Smith. When I say tons of good programs, think of a name of a blue blood, they've called Braden Smith's agent. Okay, it's that simple. And it is not an exaggeration. The money on the line is massive for him. His legacy at Purdue is on the line here too, if we're being really honest. I mean that in every way. It's up to him what he does. But yeah, I don't. This is college basketball right here, and this is something. When Jeff Brom was at Purdue had a different issue, but there's a kind of a parallel here. You had really talented guys coming in, and as soon as they could go pro, they would go pro. And as Purdue football fans, we were like, this stinks, right? And you thought, oh man, for me, the hardest thing was we only got to see one good year of Rondale Moore, right? We only saw Rondale Moore at 100% for one season, okay? And the thing that I'm bothered with by that idea is you never get to see the guy reach his potential that you thought he'd reach. Okay. Now this scenario where guys transfer, they go to the portal and they grab money is different because I know the players are all about go get that bag, got to do what's best for your family. Guess what? Here's the thing. If you're getting $1.5 million, $2 million as a college basketball player, that's a ton of money, a ridiculous amount of money. I was once 17, 18 years old. It may surprise you by the gray in the beard, but $2 million, $1.5 million are numbers that I've heard thrown around on the Purdue side to try to retain certain players. And we know what happened with Edey. But to say you're sacrificing like an immense amount, I don't know. Is it life-changing to make millions of dollars more? Absolutely. Is it life-changing to say, I don't care about my legacy at the place that recruited me out of high school and I grew up there? Yes. Those are both life changers, both sides. And they're different types of life changing. So everybody can have a disagreement with me with my perspective on this. I'm not really going to get into is he going, is he staying? I'm not going to get into that. I hope they return the core. Here's the thing. If they don't return the core and they're missing one spot, I think Purdue will get leagues better than they are this year. That's the next part. Because I think you're going to have Matt Painter coaching with a chip on his shoulder towards that factor. Not towards that guy, but towards the idea you're like, hey, we are still who we said we are. We still got a core here. We still develop players and we still get better every year. And we're going to go take a swing at the damn Final Four this next year. But guess what? Before that, Purdue gets to play in Indianapolis next week in the Sweet 16. So don't fret. Don't worry about it right now. And I mean that. Unless somebody leaves this week, do not worry about it. The rumor mill is going to be churning, though. And if you're big into that, watching that stuff, you're going to worry. Do not worry about it because it doesn't matter right now. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to you because guess what? You can't control a damn thing, fellow Purdue fan. So let's see. John Fager says, could $2 million American dollars fix Mark Few's teeth? Yes. And Mark Few is another man with a lot of money. Mark Few chooses not to get dental work that can fix his teeth. Mark Few chooses instead to look like a villain in a James Bond movie with those choppers. And it makes no sense to me. But maybe he likes that. Remember Jewel, I guess we'd call her alternative folk singer back in the 90s. I never understood why she didn't get her teeth fixed. Because she was so adorable. Mark Few would be just as adorable if he'd get his teeth fixed. That's not true. That's a lie. I just lied right to you guys. Christina KV said, I saw Painter say athletes transfer colleges if they don't think they will make it to the NBA. He said they have to get money while they can. So that specific press conference, Christina, is the one that I really dug into, and I'm not going to tell you my thoughts on it right now. I'm not. But there's more than just that statement about what you just said. There's a lot of things there. Was he pleading with someone who had already made a decision? Was he pleading with someone who is in the midst of making a decision? Had he resigned himself to the situation? There's so many ways to read that specific press conference. And I'm not going to read that far. The next press conference Paint had yesterday was very straightforward, more vintage Matt Painter. So it made me feel a lot better just for myself. But I did not like that press conference at all, for many, many reasons. So I hate trying to read tea leaves that I can't read. I have incomplete tea leaves in front of me. So, yeah. Clay Carter says, there were people who doubted what Purdue could do without Edey, yet here we are. And that's a great point. That's another one that if you want to talk your crap on social media, that's a talking point. And as a Purdue fan, they've earned a little bit of accountability. When I say they, all the morons from Illinois specifically, all the morons from IU that talk that. And you can just keep going to fan bases. It's not hard to do that search. It's really not. And it's okay. It's okay to let people know that they said stupid things. It's fine. Sporting Warrior says 2 comfortable wins, but the turnovers and the dunk the ball first. Okay, yeah. First had an amazing play in the blocks where he got around the defender. I mean, really quick, cat-like quickness, to quote Chris Farley. And then he got on the other side of the rim and just waited for a double team. I was like, come on, Caleb. Because right before that, I think, well, not maybe a few minutes before that, he had that dunk finish where the defense broke down, which it did a lot for McNeese State. But yeah, finish, man. Ron Gable says, early Saturday wins are a precious gift. Early Saturday losses are painful. Absolutely, Ron. Jerry Huff says, would love to see that Tennessee versus Purdue game. Edie should attend if that happens. So that's the game that I will be torn apart about because I never wanted that game. I talked about that back in December, how I thought Tennessee and Auburn were two of the best teams in America back then. And I stand firm on that, although Auburn is doing their best to make me look like a moron by thinking they're really, really good. Auburn looks super flawed right now. Something's very wrong there. Maybe it's just as simple as they don't have enough shooters, but gosh, they are such a macho, badass team. Like they're old, they're strong, they're aggressive, and they look bad right now. But Tennessee is playing really good basketball. Really good basketball. And I got nothing against Rick Barnes. I think they're a better team than Purdue, if I'm just being really honest. And I think every metric would point at them being significantly better than Purdue. Purdue making there to the Final Eight, I think they would wet themselves, though. Be real honest. I think their fans they'd talk a lot of game, but I think they'd be very nervous. So we'll see. It'd be incredible. That's house money, again, like many of you have said over and over. Yo says, Tennessee fans starting to sweat. Well, you're going to be in the same venue on Thursday night, Friday night, whatever Friday. A hippie with an attitude, Meyer, says, can't root for Tennessee after the way they treated Konzo. This is a good thing to remember. It's a good thing to remember things like that about that fan base. Like I said, I like Rick Barnes. I really like the players on Tennessee. I like Lanier. I like, what's his name? The point guard. Like him a lot. I like Meshack. There are a lot of players on Tennessee that I like. I've watched them play a lot. I like them. But their fan base, they are an unlikable sort. So let's see. The Noodle says, as soon as the bracket broke, my daughter, the Tennessee student, asked me why Purdue and Tennessee were always in the same region. You can tell her that is the bracket, the committee having fun. That's all that is. And creating matchups that are going to be awesome for TV. That's it. Putting Gonzaga and then Tennessee in the way of Purdue. That's what that is. It's really trying to say, okay, hey, your chance to even things up. That's also it. So yeah, that's why it happens. So Greg Mitchell says, I don't mind being wrong, but I don't think we're losing anybody. Okay, awesome. Decent money is there for Braden and TKR, no doubt. Both Miles and Cam have strong boiler roots. This is a very good point. They're both legacies. Maybe Berg. I don't know. I can't get into this. Like, I know I dug too deep into it a moment ago. But we just don't know. We don't know what their counsel is. Like, so my nephew's a pretty good athlete. He plays baseball and basketball for his high school. And I'm his uncle. And part of his counsel group is me. And you guys hear me talk a lot. That poor kid, I would say I'm hopefully level-headed, but I'm also very emotional. And he knows that. So there are crazier uncles than me. There are a lot crazier uncles than me. And that crazy uncle, when you're home for a long weekend, can say some things that may stick in your head. And you're like, okay, I got to do it. Crazy Uncle Jackass is talking again. So yeah, the counsel always matters. Their counsel, these players' counsel matters. And we just don't know it. Akoldi says Indy is going to be like 90% fans. Purdue fans? I don't know. There weren't many Tennessee fans in Lexington. I would not rule Tennessee out for traveling really well. Houston's a little harder assignment because they have been so good in the tournament that a lot of people maybe have gotten used to it, that it's not that special to them. Gonzaga will not travel super well. But yeah. Ron Gable says Heidi got his 4 fouls, but otherwise, HK was better than I've seen him this season. HK. Gosh darn it. You guys with the initials. I can't even do that. HK. What What am I missing, Ron? I'm sure you guys can tell me who I'm missing. Let's see. I'm going to do one more. Acoldi says, I like Patino at St. John's and Calipari at Arkansas. The jobs fit more. Yeah. Programs that have had a history of doing whatever it takes to win, having those two mob bosses leading their program, they're perfect fits. Arkansas's history, St. John's history, in their heyday, they were. Here's the thing. You may not have to pay guys under the table anymore, right? But there are other ways you can get creative and cheat. Cheaters always cheat. Sport King says, Lawyer showed up and showed out. Lawyer was awesome. And that's it. That's my final. I already said my final comment, but that's extra. It's almost 52 minutes. Sorry for the tech difficulties to start this thing, but Purdue's still dancing. They're going to Indianapolis. They've beaten the beautiful Aura Darling in McNeese State. Hammer down. God bless you. We'll talk to you soon. And maybe we'll talk to you. Maybe Jay and I will have something. Jay was live on, I didn't say this. He was live in Providence with his son today. Little money. Talked him into I'm sure he got good seats. That's what he do. But maybe Jay, maybe I can get him on a little pod here in the next couple days. We'll see. Talk to you soon. God bless you. We'll see you.